Hello, I'm Frank Pullia. I'm your host of Community Profiles, and today with us we have Andrew Foulds, candidate for NDP party for the Thunder Bay Superior North.
Thanks for having me, Frank.
Welcome.
Yeah.
Now, the campaign is in full swing. There's about a week left. How is it going?
Well, I mean, really, I think it's going fantastic. And like you said, we have 6 days left. And I really think about, I used to be a competitive swimmer. I was the captain of the U of T swim team. And I still remember my coach, on the final lap, all you got to do is you got to put your head down and swim as fast as you can and touch that wall. And that's really what we're in now in terms of this election.
Analogy.
Yeah, we're putting our head down and we're going for the wall. And I really like to take this opportunity to thank all the people that have been involved in my campaign. Most people, well, maybe not most, some people don't realize the huge team that is involved in a campaign. People that are raising money, people who are banging in signs, people who are knocking on doors, delivering pamphlets. And I've been really humbled by the number of people that have been helping out, supporting me. It really gives me strength to know that many people have confidence in me, they have trust in me, and they want me to represent them. Obviously the candidate gets a lot of the profile. We're doing a profile right now, but frankly, it really is all about the team. So the election has been going fantastic. And
what kind of issues are you hearing when you go to people's doors? What's coming up?
Frank, that's a great question. I mean, I was nominated 18 months ago, and frankly, I started campaigning right then. I've been from one end of this riding to the other. I've been knocking on thousands of doors, and I'm somewhat surprised, but not surprised. The number of people, the number one issue is trust. And that lack of trust, and people have lost faith.
In politicians in general, or
and their government.
In
the government.
Okay.
I think we've seen a number of scandals, and people are saying, "Well, what does my vote count now?" And I guess one of the reasons why I'm running, Frank, is I want to restore that faith. I want to restore that trust. I've been a counselor for 8 years, and although not everybody agrees with a position that I take, you know where I stand, and people can count on that. And I think that goes. I'm hopeful that it goes a long way in building that respect. So trust is an issue. If you go up into outside of Thunder Bay and in Thunder Bay as well, energy is a huge issue, and really energy takes on three pieces. One, your home energy bill. People, particularly outside of Thunder Bay, have huge electricity bills.
Yeah.
And of course, we want to take the HST, the provincial portion, off of that. These huge mining companies need to have secure and reliable energy. So energy generation is another piece, and frankly, we need to be looking at options for the Thunder Bay Generating Station to make sure that we have good, secure, reliable power so those companies can have the security to invest that money to create jobs. And the third piece is the infrastructure piece. We have a number of northern communities that are running on diesel. Do we have an opportunity to build that infrastructure, not only for Ring of Fire, but communities and other mines, and serve a broader public interest?
You raised some good points, but one important one that really stands out for me and maybe for other people is the issue of trust. Now, having said that, to what extent do you feel that even if you were a new candidate, a new representative, you would be able to represent the wishes of your constituency without having to toe the party line? Because that's usually where mistrust comes from. That
Sure.
People get in and they can only do so, but once they go in, they can only do so much in terms of having to follow the guidelines dictated by, we heard that Toronto dictating to us what should be happening.
Well, I guess, Frank, I was born and raised in Thunder Bay. I'm a northern boy.
Independent.
I'm certainly an independent thinker.
Yeah.
My boys and I, we love snowboarding and fishing. We love the outdoors here. And so part of my job, if I'm lucky enough to serve, is not only to tell the story and articulate the story to the greater legislative assembly, but also to my caucus to explain to them the importance of Northern Ontario. And the reality is, things like the Ring of Fire and mining not only is good for jobs in Northern Ontario, but it's good for all of Ontario. And so part of my job is to champion those issues and explain to them the importance of Northern Ontario to Southern Ontario. And so, in terms of that trust piece, we actually have two accountability pieces in our platform. Last year we negotiated in good faith with the Liberal government an Office of Accountability. Of course, the Liberals didn't fulfill that promise. We will have that office up and running immediately, but we'll also have a minister and a ministry responsible for financial accountability. So those two structural things in government will structurally hopefully give people more faith because it'll be more transparent. And so, you could say one thing and do another. We're going to say this and we're going to do this and it's going to keep us accountable. So, it's me from a personal perspective. I say what I do what I say. It's about me understanding my role as a Northern MPP and championing Northern issues in Southern Ontario. And it's these structural things in government that we'll put in place to make sure the transparency is there so people can regain that faith and trust.
We know that population-wise, we don't have that much leverage at the political level. But now the Ring of Fire and the potential to also not only help the North, but help Southern Ontario with the taxation part. To what extent can that be then used to leverage a better representation for the North to service our particular needs? You alluded to that, but specifically, can we use that leverage now, that economic leverage, which we didn't have before?
Absolutely. Talking about Ring of Fire on its own, you're talking about 5,500 jobs, $2 billion of potential revenue. But Frank, here's the other piece of that. All those other mines have equally as much benefit. And then the spin-offs and economic employment opportunities for small business are also huge in terms of job generating opportunities. And so we've actually got some very targeted platform policy. Obviously we've already talked about energy. Infrastructure is key, but we also want to incentivize small businesses to take on those opportunities, reducing small business tax. But we also want to reward job creators. Right? We know that small businesses want to hire more people so that their bottom line is better. We want to incentivize them as well. So when we see these opportunities, we've got a strategic plan, right? It's not just about the big companies. It's also about how does that trickle down to communities as well as First Nations. And so we have a strategic plan that encompasses all the communities. And so I think absolutely, Frank, it makes the argument that Northern Ontario is frankly important.
And that's a good point, because I know when Greenstone had their open house in terms of identifying the value chain for the Ring of Fire. And you're right, there's more than the Ring of Fire. We're using that term to identify now all mineral deposits in the region. Ring of Fire is maybe 20-30%. There are all kinds of other gold, silver, and other companies going in production. There was a company from the UK, the UK Consulate General was here in Thunder Bay trying to identify the value chain opportunities for their own companies in the UK.
Yep.
So they're coming here, they're looking at this with interest. How can we ensure that we are going to take care of our own companies, support services companies, manufacturing services companies, that will create a spin-off effect? Because if we're not prepared, including workforce training, skilled labor.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned
that. It's going to bypass us. They'll bring them in from outside.
So, it's the big companies, it's the small business, but we simply cannot forget about making sure that we have the right workers with the right skills to be able to take on the jobs with the small business and the jobs in some of these mining opportunities. And again, we have a plan to try to get kids, young people trained up. So we're looking at tuition freezing it because, you know what? College and university shouldn't just be for the rich. It should be accessible. So we want to freeze tuition and we want to make the loans interest-free. We have to be prepared for this sort of the cusp of some greatness. And so it has to be comprehensive and it has to be thoughtful. And so I'm really proud of our platform in terms of getting that ready. Now, Frank, you did ask me about issues. The other issue that is really coming up at the door is healthcare.
Okay.
And so we were setting records at Thunder Bay Regional for gridlock. People are in the hallways, and it really isn't dignified. And we have a real strategic plan on how to deal with that, because it's not only happening here, it is happening in other places. We want to open 50 24-hour healthcare clinics to take some of the pressure off of ERs. We want to put more nurse practitioners in ERs to take some of the load off of doctors. We want to open 1,400 long-term care beds to take some of the long-term care patients out of acute care beds. We also want that 5-day home care, 5-day guarantee home care piece, because if we can keep people at home longer. But Frank, here's the other thing. That's all reactive, isn't it? We need to start thinking proactive. And I think in our education platform, we have 3 things that are fantastic. First, we want to hire 1,000 more physical and health education teachers to help coach and train young people to be healthier. And that, of course, will push out savings long term. We want to invest in nutrition programs so kids first can learn and they're not hungry in class, but they're eating healthy. And we want to target low-income kids with more dental health care, because believe it or not, in Thunder Bay, the second highest reason for absenteeism is poor oral care. And so if they're not going to school, they're not learning. If they have poor dental health, that permeates other health issues, right?
Yeah.
So those 3 things, those strategic investments are proactive and will push through efficiencies. And really, instead of just talking about diseases, we should be talking about human beings. And so, we have this really comprehensive, it's practical and it's achievable. It's not sort of pie in the sky promises. These are doable, and you can count on us to deliver on these promises.
Well, for the people who live in Thunder Bay and they have to use the services of the hospital, they're fully aware of what's happening. And we have an aging population too.
Yeah.
So I like the approach in terms of being proactive. We have to look at what's going to happen 10 years from now when the baby boomers are going to retire. So preparation is key, and
Absolutely.
It's a good point that you raised. So basically, you have with 1 week left. What is your lasting message to our viewers today?
Yeah. Well, Frank, first thing I'd like to say is just thanks again for the interview this morning. I want to thank my volunteers, and I guess when I speak to the citizens of Thunder Bay Superior North, I'm 41 years old. I'm a husband. I'm a father of 3 boys. I'm a northern guy. And ultimately, I want to be your champion in Queen's Park. I want to be the voice of the North in the South, not the voice of the South in the North. And I think we have a plan that makes sense. I think we have a plan that is responsible, practical, and achievable. And it will make a difference. You can count on me to deliver. And if you give me a chance, I'm going to show you what I can do. Thanks, Frank.
Thank you, Andrew. It's been a pleasure.
Pleasure.
Thank you.